Welcome to the Weekly Roar, coming live from the Lion's Den, helping new managers become great leaders and awesome bosses. And now, here's your host, Greg Storch.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the Weekly Roar. Glad to see you back in the Lion's Den for this week's watch party. Today, I'm talking about another concept in the foundations of leadership. But before I launch into that, let me introduce myself for those who might be new to the Lion's Den. I'm Greg Storch, and I'm the founder of Lion Enterprise, a leadership development and coaching business where I'm placing my focus on helping organizations develop positive work cultures. I'm a certified professional leadership coach and also a certified speaker and trainer. Wow. Last week was so awesome. I continued the series called Follow the Leader, Concepts in the Foundation of Leadership. Last week's topic was all about giving away what we have in order to make those we lead more effective. It was all about empowering those we lead and how we actually become more powerful as leaders by giving away power than by keeping it. Admiral Stockdale's quote that great leaders gain authority by giving it away summed this concept up quite nicely, I'd say. Hey, listen, if you did not make it into the Lion's Den for the Weekly Roar last week, don't sweat it. All you have to do is jump over to my website at www.lion-enterprise.com. Click at the top of the page on the Lion's Pride Library, and that's where you're going to find all of my videos. It's a great way for you to get more of the roar. Hey, I cannot wait to jump into this week's topic. I've named this one Monkey See, Monkey Do. That's right. Today, I'm talking about how mimicking the behavior of the leader plays a crucial role in our leadership. The fact is that followers are constantly watching those that they have chosen to follow. They take their cues from the behavior of the leader and they mimic that behavior themselves. It's actually one of the biggest responsibilities that we hold as leaders to model the right behaviors for our followers. And it's important that leaders have awareness around that fact. Our actions, not just our words, are what inspire our followers into action. Monkeys do what monkeys see. Now, I'm not really referring to our followers as monkeys, of course. It's just a saying we use. But you get the idea, right? And hopefully you'll also see the importance of this in your own leadership. One thing's for sure, our followers may not believe everything we say, but they will almost certainly always believe what we do. Hey, you may have heard the saying, lead from the front before. When we lead from the front, that means we go first and show our followers the way, right? We show them what actions we want them to take by modeling those behaviors for them. It helps them to perform at their highest levels when we set an example and take risks right alongside with them. One of John Maxwell's most famous quotes is that leaders know the way, show the way, and go the way. To me, what I'm talking about today is exactly what that quote is all about. As leaders, we know the destination and we take our followers along with us by displaying the right actions. Followers will copy those actions they see from the leader, which ultimately followers will copy those actions they see from the leader, which ultimately results in their own success. Let me share a real life example with you. When I first started working in the private IT industry in DC, I wore a suit to work every day. My first day on the job, I looked around and I noticed that I was probably the only contractor wearing a full suit. Not one tie to be seen, not a jacket worn. Every day, though, I continued to wear a suit and tie. I would even have some of the federal employees tell me that I didn't have to be wearing a suit every day. But the thing was, I had expectations of professionalism in the workplace, and it was important that I model that behavior for the people that I wanted to mimic it. For months, I was the best dressed person on that contract. The employee's choice of work clothes, they didn't change much, but I continued to wear a suit and tie day after day after day. And then guess what? You probably guessed it. I came into my manager's morning meeting one morning, and one of the managers was wearing a tie. I gave a compliment to him. I'm like, man, that's a great tie. And then I carried on with the meeting. Then one after the other, the manager started dressing up. I first noticed the ties coming out. Then one brave manager put on a suit. Next thing I knew, it was like a fashion competition. Who had the coolest tie, the nicest suit? Somebody showed up with a pocket square. Then it just got crazy with the socks. It was nuts. But it caught on like wildfire. And before I knew it, all of my managers were dressing to a T. I had set a standard for them, and I consistently displayed the behavior that I wanted them to follow. And sure enough, little by little, the contractors became a more professionally dressed crew. Good leaders are always conscious of the fact that they're setting the examples for others to emulate. And that goes for good and bad behavior. The better our actions, the better the actions of our people. Monkey see, monkey do. The IT company that I used to work for back in Virginia had a slogan with their name. And the slogan was turning vision into action. Now, that slogan was an offshoot of a Japanese proverb that actually says, vision without action is a daydream, but action without vision is a nightmare. I really like that saying. Vision is a key piece of leadership. That's what we do. Leaders have to have the ability to forecast and envision the future. But they also understand that nothing is ever going to happen with that vision until we turn it into action. See, a lot of times a leader focuses on helping their followers to take action. But we have to remember that our followers, they don't hold our vision in their heads the same way that we do as the leaders who came up with the vision. It's not something that's easily transferred from leader to follower. You can't just get up there in front of people and talk about your vision. You can't stick it on a poster and hope that everybody catches on to your vision. It doesn't work like that. There's another key piece. And that's why we have to give life to our vision. And we do that through our actions. We're the ones, the leaders are the ones that know where we're trying to go. And we should know as the leaders what actions are needed to get us there. Those are the actions and the behaviors we have to model for our followers, because what we do, they do. Okay, so here are a few things to remember as a leader if you're going to strive to become a better example for your followers. First of all, having followers as a leader is a lot like having children as a parent. They are always watching what you do. Even when you think that nobody's watching, they're watching. And that is why it's critical that leaders have integrity. So what is integrity? If you're asked that question, most of the time, you're going to hear the classic definition, which usually ends up being something along the lines of integrity is doing the right thing even when no one is watching. Well, that's true. That's exactly what integrity is. Why? Because someone is always watching, and that's why leaders must be consistent in their behaviors. They are always modeling the actions that they want their followers to imitate. So what happens when the boss comes in late and leaves early? Takes an extended lunch break. The employees begin to do the same. People do what people see. Good leaders don't command their followers, they convince their followers. And nothing is more convincing for people than modeling the behaviors that you speak about. That's, to me, what it means to walk the talk. That's not always an easy thing to do, though, is it? To always do what's right. You know, I've heard it said that it's easier to teach the right thing than to do the right thing. Maybe that's why we hear a lot of parents telling their children, do as I say and not as I do, right? Leaders have to constantly model the right behavior. That takes a lot of hard work. You have to invest an effort on yourself to practice what you preach. I can't be saying one thing and doing another. That will just confuse the crap out of anyone. You know, Norman Vincent Peale wrote that nothing is more confusing than people who give good advice but set a bad example. So the antithesis to his saying must also be true, that nothing can be more convincing than a person who gives great advice and sets even a greater example. Think about that. Okay, so earlier, just a little bit ago, I alluded to the fact that we have to focus on ourselves before we can focus on others. And that takes a lot of hard work to be the leader who not only models the right behavior, but practices what they preach. It's been said that the hardest person you'll ever lead is yourself. I'm going to say that one more time because I want you all to understand that I don't care what kind of leadership challenge you think you might be facing right now or how hard you think that is. It pales in comparison to trying to lead yourself. So come on, say it with me. The hardest person I'll ever lead is myself. All right, great job. That's right. And don't forget it. Remember my example of wearing suits to work every day? I had to have that standard for myself before I could ever hold that standard for someone else. That's why I continued to wear suits day after day. I could have totally dressed down and met them where they were at as far as the dress code went. I could have listened to those federal employees telling me, you don't have to wear a suit every day. But that wasn't the behavior that I expected. So I had to model what I wanted to see. As a leader, you can't or you shouldn't ask your people to do something that you aren't willing to do yourself. The leader is the one who sets the standard of behavior. Parents, that goes for you too. You're the leader of your families, and you're the ones who set the standard of behavior. One of the hardest things we have to learn as great leaders is to look to ourselves for the answers when things don't go the way we expect them to, right? Say someone is underperforming or your goals aren't getting met. When that's happening, we have a tendency to look outward for the cause of these issues, when really the first person you should really be looking at is right there, the man in the mirror. Where did you go wrong, not the employee? So if you want to get better here at setting the example with your behavior, you can start by looking at your own character. And a great place to start with that is to look at your values. And I know a lot of you have done a values inventory. You've probably even drilled down and identified not only your values, but you also know your core values, those values which you just will not deviate from. Go ahead and think about your values, make a list of those values, and then once you have them written down, I want you to reflect. Just reflect over the past month and think about the things that have happened or occurred. And what I want you to do is, while you're thinking about that, keep in mind as you're looking at your actions, ask yourself, how did those actions align with my values? How was this in alignment with what I value? Once you do that, look for areas where you might be inconsistent. Maybe some days you're on it, maybe some days you're not. Maybe there's areas where you're nailing it all the time. Those aren't the places you want to focus, right? You obviously have that under control. So look at the areas where you're most inconsistent. And if you take the time to do this self-reflection exercise, it will show you where you need to work on yourself. Here's another aha exercise, and you can do this at work or even at home with your own family. And that's what I love about these concepts in leadership. These don't have to just apply to a corporate setting where you are the boss, the leader, the figurehead, leading teams or managing people. This goes far beyond that, and it applies to wherever you're leading. So remember that. It's not just a corporate job setting. So what you want to do is think about some of the things you wish others were doing better than they are now. What's something you wish your children were doing better at than they are right now? How about the teams you're leading? What are they not doing as well as you'd wish they were doing right now? Once you figure that out, write them down, make a list. Okay, once you have your list, here comes the really, really tough part. Because you're now going to evaluate yourself on each of those things that you wish they were doing better. How are you doing at those things? Because remember, monkey see, monkey do. Now, if you score low, you've got some work to do to change your behaviors, those actions that you model for others. If they aren't doing well, it may be because you aren't doing well with it. All right, you guys get the idea. Let's wrap this thing up. Today, I was talking to you about the importance of modeling behavior for those who are following you. You have to set the example of the behaviors and the actions that you want others to emulate. If not, you have to begin by changing yourself before you can change them. You are the hardest person you are ever going to lead. So don't ever think that you're too good or too perfect to get better. Be better and do better. Okay, you guys, I think that's going to do it for this week. Please, like always, feel free to leave your thoughts and comments down below. Let me know what you think. And thanks so much for tuning in again this week for another weekly roar. You know, I truly appreciate your support. Hey, if you like the content that I'm putting out each week, I just ask that you go back to the Lion's Den, find that post of mine that contains the video after this watch party, and share it out. Share the link out to your pages and your groups. And don't forget, put a note on, put a caption there why you're sharing it so your followers know why they should be watching my videos. I'd appreciate the help, and I obviously always appreciate your support here. I'm going to be back here again next week, same place, same time, to speak about yet another concept in the foundations of leadership. Next week, I want to talk to kind of dovetailing onto this lesson by speaking about the concept of trust in the leader coming before trust in their vision. Are those who are following you really buying it? Well, we're going to find out next week. Until then, remember, you guys, be powerful, but stay poised just like a lion. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for watching the Weekly Roar live event at lionenterprise.com. If you enjoyed this video, please tell others to join us each week here in the Lion's Den. Thanks again, and see you next week.